record on. Hello, everybody. Welcome to Land Down Under. Tonight we are discussing Jackalope Wives and Other Stories. I think it's the final bit of it. Yes?
Yep.
Yep, great. Which is by, oh my God, why did I open the book? I should have left it on Kingfisher. Oh, there we go, covers. Excellent, thank you. This is the Kingfisher, which has been chosen by Lisa.
Yes.
Off you go, Lisa.
Thank you. So last year we did a Kingfisher. Kingfisher, I should say, is also known as Ursula Vernon. And we did another one, the Very Minor Mage, and I have previously read and really loved another novel, The Baker's Guide to
A Wizard's Guide to Defensive Baking.
Thank you. The Wizard's Guide I had the jobs back to front. A Wizard's Guide to Defensive Baking. Thank you, Elizabeth. And
you get forgiven for not remembering that title.
It's pretty good though. So I thought, well, we want something a little perhaps easier or lighter for January reads.
Lisa, we just lost sound of you.
Yeah,
that was just because I was asking someone to turn down the TV volume. So you didn't really need to hear all of that. Okay. Thank you. So I thought, and I saw this was short stories, and I thought, oh, well, that's kind of cool because we can, you can read them slowly or quickly or however you like. There's actually a lot more short stories than I was expecting, I have to say. So when we go around the room, so that's why I picked it for a January read. So should we go around the room and see what people's thoughts were? Should I go first? I don't know what the protocol is.
That's whatever you like. To you entirely.
Okay, well, I mostly enjoyed it. There were definitely 2 or 3 of them which were like, I'm not sure that's a short story, but I think I get where she's coming from. And there were a couple of recurring characters that I really enjoyed. So I thought maybe after we've had our thoughts, we could go around and discuss those, like that came up in more than one story. And there were definitely like the tag in Goodreads is sort of like, it's got funny, lyrical, angry, beautiful. I'm like, yeah, really that describes it. There's funny ones, there's lyrical ones, there's kind of slightly darker ones, which I know from the 2 books that I've read of T. Kingfisher, they can sometimes get a bit dark. So I think some of the stories I felt like were for me like a 4.5. And I think there was one that I thought was a 5, and there was a couple that were like, but anyway, yeah. So mostly I really enjoyed it. So if we want to go around, would anyone like to go first?
You have to pick someone.
I have to pick someone. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, I'll go around the screen then. So here's a story. Mel's over there on my screen.
Awesome. I did not read all of them. I got about 20% in, and I was just feeling a bit too dark from it all and wasn't really enjoying myself. So I'd actually started skipping stories because I was like, one of the good things about a short stories is that you can just sort of go, this one's not working, I'll try the next one. And so I sort of started skipping stories to try and hoping I'd find something I'd like. But after a few of those, I was just like, yeah, I don't think I'm in the right mental space for this book right now. So I didn't get very far into it. That does not by any means mean it was bad. I just don't think my mental space was right for it.
Cool. And then on this side, I have Kirsten.
I have a similar story, although I don't think I made it quite as far. And I did enjoy the ones that I read, which I think I probably only read 3 or 4. I read the Jackalope Wives one, and I think maybe one more past that. But that was more situational than by fault of the book. I was away on holiday with family, so I was kind of easily distracted. A new Brandon Sanderson book came out, and I went back to read it straight away. And I have been reading too much fan fiction. And I've had a conversation with Matt about, like, I struggle with short stories in general. And I know you guys know I tend to be the person who reads the gigantic long books that are in heaps of series. And I think I've figured out my issue and why I'm like that is that I struggle to start new stories. it takes me a long time to start to care and a long time to connect and a long time. And once I've done that, I'm like into it. I can keep reading about, if I've really connected with the characters, I can just keep reading and reading forever about those characters. With short stories, by the time I finally start to connect, it's over. And then now I've got that little hurdle of now I have to start this new story. And I feel like I put it off. I go, oh, I'm not going to start that story again because it's that jumping off part that I struggle with. And I think that this is the brain psychology of why I struggle with short stories. So the ones that I read, I did enjoy, but I kept going, I won't start that next story. I'll just read another something else for a while and then I'll do that later. And then I ran out of time. So yeah, sorry, that was a long-winded way of saying I didn't read it more.
Matt, did you read it?
Well, no. So I read the Jackalope Wives because it was the one that you could read for free on Tor. And I couldn't get an electronic copy from either of the two libraries that we had available, unfortunately. So I probably would have read more if I'd had easier access to a copy, but I did just read the one. Interestingly, the free version that was, I don't know if it was Tor, it was Apex Magazine, I think is where it was first published. They had an audiobook version of it, which was also available for free. Which I listened to for about 30 seconds and remembered why I don't do audiobooks and stopped that and went back and read it in text form. So I enjoyed it. It was quite short, but I thought it was enjoyable. The overwhelming feeling I got of it was that I was very easily able to picture the world. Like it was drawn very well for me. Like there wasn't a very long plot or anything going on there, but for when I was there, I felt like an atmosphere to it. So I felt like kind of drawn into the story quite well. And I feel like there's a parable here somewhere, but I'm not smart enough to get where it is. So,
Thank you so much.
if anyone else has ideas, I'd love to hear. Also, I didn't know that Jackalope was not a real animal, but like a real thing from folklore, because it's not a folklore that I'm particularly familiar with. So now I know.
Probably want to move on, guys.
Yep,
Brief impressions, remember.
Okay. Thank you, Bobby.
Okay, so I got 75% of the way through the whole thing. I didn't finish, but my reasoning for finishing was very different apparently so far from everyone else's. I have read other T. Kingfisher books, like I've read books by T. Kingfisher, never any short stories. And I read the Hollow ones and I read the Twisted ones, and there was one other one. Anyway, so I don't mind the dark. I quite like dark stuff. I tend to read more towards the horror end of the spectrum. So I couldn't figure out what, like, I enjoyed the premise of the stories. There were things that the author was saying, and I was like, oh, I like that. But I was getting frustrated with reading each story, and it took me a while. And then I was talking to Shig about it, and I was like, I figured it out. I think it was the one about the bird bones. Mm-hmm. And it was like, it just hit me right there. I was reading it going, I understand what she's saying. The humor is great. Why do I not like this? It was an entire paragraph was one sentence, and it's the style of writing. It's a deep South voice, and I struggle a lot with that personally. This is like, that's just what it is. And I was thinking about it. The Hollow ones and the Twisted ones and the other books I've read do not use this style of writing. It's, it doesn't sound like you're standing at a gas station waiting for someone to get through their life story before they will hand you your change back for the can of Coke that you bought because you're thirsty. That's what it felt like to me when I was reading them. So I had to stop. But I enjoyed the bits that I read. If I could ignore that part, I really liked the premise. I liked the stories that she was telling. I liked the humor and stuff. I just didn't like that conversational tone these short stories had.
That rang a bell, and I just realized that was where I stopped, was the bird bones one.
Thank you. Oh wait, no, wait.
I pushed because I was like, maybe they're gonna be different, and then it became very clear that this tone was kind of, they were all like that. So then I was like, okay, I'm gonna give myself a pass. Yeah.
Karina and Naomi.
Do you want to go?
Who wants to go first?
You can go first. Okay.
Dark and spooky and gloomy is more up my alley than certain other people, and that's known about me. And so I'm 62% of the way through, and I will probably keep going. The only reason that I'm only 62% of the way through is because I went back to work this week and Aurelia started new daycare this week. So it's just shit timing. No, I really, really enjoyed it. Standouts, I've got the list in front of me. Jackalope Wives, I really liked. Wooden Feathers, I really liked. Razorback was great. The ones that I didn't like were the actual poems, but that's just, I'm not a poetry fan most of the time. But the actual short stories I really enjoyed. I liked, the twists on folklore and things like that. Oh, and the Dryad's Shoes as well. I really liked that one. Yeah. Go.
I'm like halfway through the Wooden Feathers. I really enjoy Jackalope Wives. I'm not enjoying this as much. I'm still enjoying it, but not as much as I did Jackalope Wives. I'll probably finish the book only because I think it'll be a nice quick read and it'll be another number for my 250 books.
Actually, that's
Stop
the other
now.
thing. I found this a really quick and easy read. So I've been trying to get reading in so that I can meet my much smaller reading goal for the year. While Aurelia is falling asleep because she's actually doing that fairly comfortably now. And so I'm able to sort of get a little bit of reading as she's nodding off. And so that's become my reading time. And it was really easy to just sort of read one of these short stories and then walk away, and then read a short story and walk away and get through it. It's nice.
Hey, Elizabeth.
Okay, well, since we're all giving our figures, I got 35% of the way through, and that's mostly due to extreme other reading deadlines. I have read T. Kingfisher's stuff before. I really like her work. I have mostly enjoyed this so far, although Wooden Feathers was quite horrifying. And my favorite story so far has been Bird Bones. So it's interesting to see that was one that stopped a few others. But I am currently about halfway through That Time with Bob and the Unicorn, which I'm enjoying the sense of humor for sure. So yeah, on the whole, enjoying it greatly. I don't think I wasn't sold on the first story. I don't feel like it was the strongest start to the anthology collection, but on the whole, enjoying it quite a lot. And I will definitely be finishing it off, although it may end up waiting until the rest of my reading deadlines have passed.
And then Kimberly.
I quite enjoyed it. I'd read 100% of it. I'm very much like Karina. The short stories actually, I feel like I pick it up more because I know I can just read for a short time. And I don't feel like I'm leaving off because I know I can just pick up and read a short story really quickly. And I don't like sometimes picking it up to start reading again and knowing that I'm going to have to put it down before I finish it kind of stops me. So this is really good. And like Karina again, I don't mind like a little bit of darkness. I like the folklore and the myth retellings. I'd have to say there's probably a few in here that are retellings. I have no idea what never heard of. I don't know what the stories were before that. So I'd be curious to know what some of the stories that they were based on are. Yeah, I enjoyed most of them. I think I enjoyed all of them, but yeah, the little poetry ones don't really stick out in my mind a lot. I enjoyed Jackalope Wives, and I enjoyed was it the Tomato Thief?
Yeah.
The follow-up. That was really good too. That was quite funny. I love seeing the grandmother again and finding out more of her story. It was both dark and both quite funny that her tomatoes are being stolen because all my tomatoes are currently growing and I keep picking them, and every now and then one disappears that I was about to pick because one of my family members has come over and picked it. I'm like, I was about to pick that one looked really good, but it needed another day, and I'm like, I can so relate. Except mine's a grown human picking mine, not a mythical being or a magical being.
Are you sure You really
It somehow disappears right after someone's been over. So,
Suspicious.
so yeah, I'll probably get into it more later. But yeah, very much enjoyed it and read it quite quickly, I think.
So I think everyone's read Jackalope Wives.
Yes.
So I was going to say, and I actually quite liked Jackalope Wives. And if you haven't read The Tomato Thief, the grandmother appears in it again, and I actually liked The Tomato Thief more than Jackalope Wives.
I think I did too.
Yeah. So I was going to say, for those who read, maybe we could say go around and say who those who read Jackalope Wives, which I think might have been everyone. What did you think about it? Thoughts, character, that sort of thing. Yeah. I'll start off with. I actually found the Jackalope Wives, what happened to her, really disturbing. Like that was like, whoo, that's quite dark for quite early in these books. I mean, I think Kingfisher does do that sometimes, but it was a little bit, oh, okay. Had to push through that a little bit myself. So yeah, I will say that. But yeah. Did anyone else have an opinion about it?
Yes, that was definitely, it was the first part of it was very dark what happened to her, but I really grew to love what was her name again? Grandmother Harkin. Yeah, I
Harkin,
really
yeah.
grew to love her. Like she's very hard but very soft inside, like very hard exterior, hardened woman but with a good heart, and it's I really liked her character. So I think that made it a little less horrifying what happened to the poor Jackalope wife.
Yeah.
Did anyone else shout "damn patriarchy" whenever that happened? Because that was my whole reading of that. I'm like, that's just dudes doing whatever. And you folklore throughout history, you've got the seals as well.
The Selkies.
Yeah, the Selkie thing.
Selkies.
Yeah, where
And
women come out to dance on the beach.
bear
and the men
creatures as
shelter.
well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm like, you see the end. I'm like, that's just anyway. So when I was reading it, I was shouting that a couple of times.
Yeah, I think it was interesting, that whole concept of he was fine with doing this awful thing until he had the sound of her screaming when he's burning the thing, and then he chickened out, and it's like, well, now you made it worse by stopping halfway. And it's like, because you were fine, you knew you were doing something awful, but you didn't have to be faced with it because you weren't watching her suffer. And when you had to watch her suffer, then you couldn't handle it. But now, because that happened, you made it even worse. And I thought that was an interesting, because that's a thing that happens in real life too, whereas people are happy for other people to suffer when they can't see it.
Is the grandma the only character ends up in later stories?
They reference the daughter does, and they reference the boy, and basically say everyone says he's an absolute idiot.
That's was my question. Is he still...
So the daughter's there again, coming to see her mum and things like Grandma Harkin, her mum and stuff, but
without spoiling it too much, there's on that patriarchal idea, the Tomato Thief has a nice little turnaround. So, and I won't say anymore because you can read it if you want. So that I don't know. I do feel like the Tomato Thief redeemed it a little bit. Maybe that part of it.
Yeah.
I'd be interested. Oh, does anyone else want to say anything about?
The one thing I struggle with this book, this one, and a few of the other stories is I started looking up all the trees and stuff she was talking about, because I have no idea about any of the plant stuff that she's talking about. Eventually I stopped, because half the time when some of the stories, I think there's another one with Witch and the God under the porch. I'm like, I got to stop looking up what these things are, because I'm going to spend half the story looking up what all these plants and trees and stuff are. Yeah.
She's a gardener.
Yes.
So, and a bird watcher.
Yeah.
So.
I did notice in her little thing, she's a gardener and a bird watcher, and I'm like, oh God, yep, she's going to keep doing this. I'm going to stop looking.
Yeah.
Did most people read the one with the wooden duck?
Yes. Yeah, that's the wooden feathers one.
Wooden feathers. Yeah.
That was interesting.
I kept thinking Pinocchio in that one.
Yeah.
A horrifying Pinocchio is
yes.
feathers. Yeah.
That's exactly. I really thought it was a retelling of
Mm.
Pinocchio.
Anyway, it was a riff on Pinocchio, just like the Jackalope Wives one was a riff on the Jackalope Wives folklore of the go out into the desert and steal one to get a wife. Yeah.
Mm.
Yeah.
I was going to say that her preoccupations as like a gardener and a bird watcher, I felt made her characterizations of animals across the stories quite good. Like the way, like, because Grandma Harkin walks through the desert for a while and they encounter like, or they see at a distance at least, different like animals that they could ask for help. And she's like, no, we're not going to see this one because of this reason. And that sort of thing, which I thought was really good. And the way she characterizes, I think she called it the patent people, was
Yes.
quite clever. Like, because once you put the pieces together, you realize what animal it is. And I thought that was really, clever.
A couple of people said they stopped during Bird Bones. And then I think Kim said that was actually one she really liked. So
That was me.
oh, it was
Yeah,
Elizabeth,
but I also
sorry.
really enjoyed Bird Bones, by the way.
Yeah.
I thought that was
Surprised.
funny.
Who likes that one?
I liked that one.
Well,
yeah.
Bobby had a problem with the writing style, not the story
And
itself.
yeah, and
so.
actually it clicked. It was actually the Bob and the Unicorn. Even though that's the thing of I love the humor, but I could not get past. That's when it hit me. It's because they're all these paragraph long sentences. Yeah.
Yep.
That's that style of speech. Like that.
Yeah, it's absolutely that style of speech. It's just something I personally struggle with because I have hang-ups on that.
Yeah.
My reason for stopping at that stage, though, was more to do with just overall a vibe that I was getting from the collection at that stage. Literally looking at my notes, because I started taking notes for each story, and it was just, I feel disturbed, I'm upset on each story. And by the time I got to Bird Bones, I was just like, no.
It was quite intense. It was like I was getting like, did anyone see the M. Night Shyamalan movie about the trees? And I was like, if P.T. Kingfisher could have written that movie, this is what it would have been better. Like because
I definitely Bird Bones felt like full on horror to me. So
Really?
yeah,
It's funny, but it's very dark, especially the end near the end.
It has
Like
like
those
early
birds are
apocalypse
disturbing.
vibes.
sorry.
It has like early apocalypse vibes. Like
It does.
Yes.
It does. I mean, also that probably hit really close to home because they just come out of a pandemic as well. Like they were talking about a bird flu that led into, and like that was when they first started noticing birds acting funny, and that's why no one was taking note now, was because they just come out of a pandemic.
Yes, it sort of had that the apocalyptic, virus, and then the antidote causing weird things that made things worse. And
Honestly, I didn't find it nearly as horrifying as Wooden Feathers, for sure.
no, Wooden Feathers was definitely more disturbing.
Yeah,
that was interesting because it was partly the whole horror, like the disturbing thing of the puppet eating these birds, but the thing that got me about that was how heartbroken I was for this. Like I've been in that situation where you're at the market selling stuff and everybody's walking past your stall and stuff. And I felt so bad for her when she realized this guy's just buying the birds that she spent all this time carving to feed them to this puppet. And I'm like, but she put work into those and she thought somebody liked them. And then the one person who liked them didn't even want them for that. And I felt, that was the part that got me with that story more than anything. I just really felt for her.
Yeah. Well, he's like, I can't remember exactly what he said, but basically he said they were terrible, and she's like trying not to cry in front of him.
Oh, yeah,
I'm like,
in the market. Yeah,
that hurts. I think that's the worst part of that story.
Mm-hmm. I think I found Wooden Feathers a little easier to read than Bird Bones, maybe because of the conversations that were happening between her and the guy, the father, like the sculptor.
Yeah.
Geppetto. Yeah.
Good again. Carver. Wood carver.
Yep. The wood carver. Thank you. Because when the bits where they actually were having discussions about it and what the art means and why maybe you don't want to be really good at it. Anyway, But yeah. So who read the Tomato Thief?
Yeah, I did.
Where I'm up
Two of
to.
us. Okay. Oh, perhaps we better not talk about that then. Because
No, you're fine.
spoilers. Yeah. Kimberly, do you know what the actual myth is it's based on? Because I didn't.
No.
I couldn't.
No, I don't know if there is one, but
Okay.
or whether it just pulled from things. So I don't know, like, if the character, the bad character in it, has any mythological background or
Yeah,
not.
I just wondered whether it followed on from wherever the mythology of the Jackalope wives come from.
See,
But
I don't know that
didn't
mythology
actually
either.
take
So
the time to look it up. So
no,
I'm
I've
sure it
like there
has.
was quite a few where I was like, I'm like, oh, this definitely has one. Like, let Past the Horses Black. At the beginning, it's from she says it's from something. Tam Lin stories. And I'm like, I have no idea what that is. So I'm like, I should
That's the
probably look
story of
that up.
Oberon. That's the story of Oberon. So that's and Blind Michael's Bride. So that's the Irish
Irish.
the Fae folk, yeah, and the she.
The fair folk.
Yeah, Fae folk.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes, that was all about the Fae. So
Yeah.
Yeah,
and
yeah,
the
Let
Fairy
Black
Queen.
Horses
Yes,
run.
Fairy
Yeah,
Queen.
that's going to be about Maeve and Blind Michael's Bride. Her last thread before
Heard.
Tamlin kills her in the end. So sorry, that I know a lot about because I've read I've read every single Shauna Maguire book in that series, and she gives you a lot of background.
Oh, okay.
That story had the Let the Horses Black. When I get onto the end, I'm like, why is she doing this? I won't spoil it because it's got a nice twist at the end. I don't want to ruin the twist, but I'm thinking, why is she doing it? And then it had this nice tiny little twist at the end right before it stops, and I'm like, oh, that's actually really good.
This is probably
I could
the
see
sort of thing
that. I was wondering about the dynamic between two characters at the start, and when it comes to the end, I'm like, oh, I like that.
the
Very
denouement.
interesting.
Yeah. That probably would annoy Kirsten because you'd probably be like, "Oh, that's good," and no, don't stop.
Yeah.
I struggle, hey, because I'm like, just when I'm really enjoying it, it stops, and I'm like, could you just keep going? Yeah, that's a me thing though. Like I definitely, I have a style of things that I like to read for a reason. And I think it's interesting to consider that it's maybe my brain's in this space because we were talking about this cognitive stuff at work, and one of the things is this starting new things is this, and that's what it is. I'm not good at starting something new. I'm good at continuing and sticking with stuff. I'm not good at starting stuff. And clearly that I'm the same with reading and as well as cleaning the house. Like I'll put off starting to clean the house forever, and then when I start, I'm like, now I'm doing 10,000 jobs all in one day. This is, my brain is weird.
I can relate to the house cleaning thing. I have to say, for those for whom the short story thing worked, I'm really happy about that because that was kind of part of why I picked it. I feel like I want to apologize that some of the stories were a lot darker than I thought they were going to be, but I probably should have known that because Kingfisher can go into that dark. But I did want to say that I could kind of see maybe parallels between some of the character development in some of those stories and the Very Minor Mage. I actually could see some parallels. Could anyone else see that, or was it just me? Maybe
I don't think I made any parallels, but I did feel like the writing, there was a similarity in the writing. Like I could see it was the same person. So there probably was. I think of the Minor Mage a couple of times reading this, so I wouldn't be surprised if something in the back of my mind reminded me about that.
I would love to read a
one
whole
in particular, but I can't remember which one in here reminded me more of the Minor Mage, and it would have been about the character development.
Razorback.
Could be, yeah.
I kind of wish there was a whole novel about Grandma Hart.
Yeah.
I would read that.
I love her character. Her character is brilliant.
Yeah. Yeah. Even if I had to put up with all the gardening stuff that I didn't understand.
Yeah. I did find Razorback brilliant dark revenge story for Razorback.
Yes.
Yeah, dark revenge. I'm reading this going, oh, Mel would not like Razorback, and Mel would not like, what's the other one with the fairy?
Dryad Shoes, that one? No.
No, there's the one where she's working in the Carnal? Well, I forget. Don't know how you say it. The butcher.
Oh, that's Bird Bones, isn't it?
No,
No,
not
Bird Bones
Bird
is the
Bones.
one with the bird
Grandma.
army.
Oh, okay. Yeah. No,
Like-
but I know. Yeah. No,
I
that
admit
was.
I did almost put a shout out and say which stories should I be reading because this is not working for me.
Oh
I
yeah,
was gonna
origin
say the
story.
same
I reckon
thing,
there
like-
was about 3 or 4 that you might like, and it was
Origin story would not be a Mel story because that was she worked in the. How do you say it? Charnel house?
Charnel House. Charnel
Charnel
House? Yeah.
I don't know.
I
Yeah,
go
basically a
abattoir.
butcher.
I would call
Abattoir.
it
It's like an abattoir. Yeah.
Yeah. Don't read
Basically,
that
the
one.
fairy is making things from the leftover bits. So I'm like, Mel would not like this. Not enough.
Mel
a lot
doesn't
of-
even like
there's
hearing
quite a bit of
about this.
description. Yeah, there's quite a bit of description in there.
Yeah.
It was very fascinating though.
Elizabeth, I think you said something just before. I don't know what it was though.
if I did, it has disappeared once again.
It was back during the comment about the gardening.
Oh,
Oh,
maybe.
I said feature, not a bug.
Oh,
Karina and Naomi, did you, if you want to chime in with anything, because feel like you didn't get a chance to say very much.
I haven't really read enough of the book to have too much of an opinion. I really enjoyed Jackalope's Wives. I liked that in the end, the grandmother, gave her skin back to the poor Jackalope wife, and I just enjoyed it. And they're just nice, easy stories that, while they are a little bit dark, they're not too dark for me.
Yeah. They're not scary, they're just dark.
Yeah.
I like dark.
I
Dark's
know you
good.
do.
Dark.
It was a nice start to the year. I haven't actually picked up a book since I finished my 20th book last year. I was like, right, I'm done.
Reach my goal, done.
Yep.
Welcome back.
yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah,
Other
I
than
think
that-
I stopped looking up what all the plants and stuff were on the second the tomato thief, and then I'm like, should I keep looking? And then I got to Pockeson, which is the witch story, and I'm like, yeah, no, there's too many plants.
Yeah.
There's way too many plants in like one paragraph. Give up.
I quite like Pockeson.
Yeah,
I felt like
Pockeson.
the character and the witch character.
Yeah, it's like
was cool.
the possum god.
I really felt like she was like Granny Weatherwax. Did you feel that?
Yeah, she
witch-
definitely had the
I
grandma.
don't think that's too much of a spoiler, but yeah, if you read Pockeson, I
Yeah.
don't know.
I think she definitely had a little bit of Grandma Harkin vibes as well.
yes,
Same sort of character thing where they're hard but still soft.
on the inside.
Yes,
that
they're
is
old
sort
and
of-
hardening.
That particular character trope, if you will, that's a very common feature for an old woman in a American tall tale.
Yep.
Which that's a staple character. You're always going to have the old cranky but like heart of gold. Like, yeah, if you've read, or even probably not even American, but even like just North American tall tales, because if you think about Anne of Green Gables, you have Rachel Lynde, cranky as, a big gossip, and Marilla, cranky as with the biggest, softest teddy bear once you can kind of get in there and learn who they are. But yeah.
Do you know who she reminded me of? Is
Oh.
Granny Weatherwax from the Terry Pratchett witches books.
Yeah, that's what Lisa was just saying. Yeah.
Yeah,
Sorry, was I zoning out when you said that?
possibly.
My brain is, I've been at work this week for the first time since
Yeah.
before Christmas, and my brain is like,
Did you
yeah,
have
I'm
any
sorry.
photos
Yes,
where
I'm
you-
glad I didn't hear you say that, because I had that in my own head, because yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
She obviously
Lisa.
writes a lot of older characters, which is nice.
She writes women, a lot of middle-aged women, or like women who've gone through a major life change, and like how they're just restarting their lives. That was what I loved about the Twisted Ones, is your main character is a woman who's having to come back and just completely restart.
Maybe because that's sort of happening to me, I should read those books.
The Twisted Ones has some body horror in it. I will just
Okay.
put that out there. It's
you.
not a lot, but there is one section. Yeah. Mhm.
Okay.
She doesn't particularly hold back. So
Okay.
I'm looking at Mel's face and going, yep, your
Yeah,
face
no,
is doing what my
She's
face
going,
is doing.
one I'm not reading, another one I'm not reading.
I almost need to start like a shelf on Goodreads for me to just put these books onto.
Avoid.
Don't read this. Don't read
Recommended
this.
books people recommend that I should not read.
No. Lud has banned me from.
Oh, not banned, just suggested you won't like it. So
Steered me away from.
Everyone in Lud, add a tag to your Goodreads that you can add
Yes.
Mel
Same.
Mitch.
No. We need like book plates that go no. No.
Mel's.
Not
Tag
Mel
not for Mel.
recommended. We'll do that when we have the commune and we'll have like a library system and we'll just have like a sticker that we put on for Mel isn't recommended for this one.
Yep, there's just like bright green or something, not for Mel.
Maybe blue. She's not a fan of blue.
There we go.
Good choice. Good choice.
Yeah.
Just need to categorize it as a not Mel safe area. Just put them all in a separate area of the library so Mel knows this is the area that is not safe for Mel.
Let's
So,
just
if
design
we-
our whole
If we
library
make our own library,
my
we may have
taste.
to. If we make our own library, we may have to actually make a catalog, and we could just tag it in the catalog. Have a little pad there connected to a library catalog, and Mel can search for a book and go, okay, not that one, not that one, not that one.
Have you like a filtering feature here? I'm
Filter,
gonna
filter out, not for
and
Mel.
another filter out, not for Mel.
Yeah.
Question: do we know if this is T. Kingfisher's only collection of short stories? Is there more collections
more.
of short stories?
There's more.
There were more.
I
do
thought
not
I saw
remember what they
another,
are.
or at least one more.
There is at
Yeah.
least one more.
There's a
Okay.
few. I was having a look before because I was like, I don't think I've read any other T. Kingfisher or Ursula Vernon. And there
Vernon,
were, let me see.
I mean, she writes a lot, but I wasn't sure whether there were.
Yeah, there are others because there's other ones that are like title and others.
Okay, cool.
I was trying to write Goodreads and I wrote garden. I started writing garden. Why?
Your brain is going down.
Freudian slip for sure.
I was also gardening, so too much gardening. Talk.
I have a question for the group actually. So
Oh,
I know sometimes writers, they write short stories before they get into novels, and then you can and there are other writers who continue writing short stories the whole time, but that are standalone. I mean, not set as side stories in a universe that's already in their novels. I was wondering as I was reading it whether, and I suppose I could have looked this up as well. Did anyone feel that some of the stories were very much about they were before she got into novels and that her
She said
style
some-
hadn't fully developed?
I think there was something in the intro about her excitement when she first sold Jackalope Wives as her
Yes.
first story. So I think that most of these were probably at the very early stages.
Yes, that's what it sounded like from all the little personal bits in there. That
Mm.
that's just how she started, how she got started.
Yeah. There was a few notes about how she sold one thing, and then after she sold that one, she would sell another story, and then they come back saying, "Well, we want more," and she'd have to come up with stuff.
I don't think that's quite accurate. I think that's only in relation to short stories. I think because I'm pretty sure she's been writing novels for a long time, and there are some novels she's been writing for a long time that have been marinating, I suppose, is the word. But Jackalope Wives kicked off her short story career.
Sorry,
Fair enough.
It's not the same thing as her writing career.
Right.
Right.
So did anyone feel that Jackalope Wives, her writing style was less developed than, say, Very Minor Mage or Wizard's Guide to Defensive Baking or any of the, or did it just feel very similar?
I think it felt very similar to me. And being a short story, it's kind of harder to tell because you've got to fit a lot into that sort of.
The style was very good and very poetic and expressive. She has some really nice turns of phrase. So I didn't feel like it was underdeveloped at all.
Agreed.
it's definitely a different style. Some like the ones that I read are definitely a different style to the longer books of hers that I have read. I don't know how much of that, even though like the Twisted Ones and the Hollow Ones, those are both set in the Deep South. Like they'd be considered towards that like Southern Gothic kind of subgenre, but they don't read the same way. Like the way that she's phrased things is different. So, but I didn't feel like it was underdeveloped, just different.
Like I got that some of them really did read, but certainly that time with Bob and the Unicorn, although I think that might have been intentionally written in that voice, maybe. I got that, but there was a couple as well where I picked up the writing style felt like it was the way someone would talk, and I couldn't figure out whether that was she hadn't quite developed the writing style yet, or whether it
Totally
was
intentional.
intentionally. Okay, yeah.
There's you'll get a lot of like Southern Gothic novels that are written like that too. That's a very specific, and they could take a little pride in that turn of speech and in this almost stream of consciousness kind of way of storytelling, because that is how they tell stories. So
Okay.
I think she's located in
South Carolina.
North-
I checked.
South?
I went and looked
Okay.
because I was like, what is this?
It's one of the Carolinas, but I couldn't remember if it was the North or South.
Actually, not in North Carolina. My apologies. North Carolina. She's in North Carolina.
Yeah. I only looked up one plant, Kim, and that was the spiderwort that was mentioned in Bed Bones. And that is a plant of the Carolinas, and quite a pretty one too. So probably not something you can grow here, but
Yeah.
very worth
I
looking
got
at.
from the feeling that she knows a lot of all the desert plants. I was sort of looking up like the trees and stuff in Jackalope Wives that I started looking up most of. So I'm like, oh, there's definitely a lot of area that I don't know the plants of. I was just looking at the dates. This was, I don't know about Ursula Vernon, but this is reasonably early for her two Kingfisher works.
I mean, yeah, Jackalope Wives was her debut short story.
Yeah.
So that obviously is
Yeah,
her
but
first
obviously
published.
wouldn't have been her first book though, because there was a couple around the same time, and she would have been writing those earlier. And they would have been probably in the works earlier than, but yeah, so she would have been writing, but it was definitely earlier in the T Kingfisher career, by the look of it.
Although Jackalope Wives won a Hugo, I think.
Yes.
Or at least it was nominated, because I've read the story before.
Yeah, I can't remember if I remember she talked something about the Hugos in here, and it didn't win, but I think it was Jackalope Wives didn't win, but it was a year where there was a whole upset with the Hugos, and she won an award from George R.R. Martin.
Ah, right. Okay.
And her friend had to accept it on her behalf because she wasn't there and she had no idea. Nobody had any idea about it. I forget what it was, but I think that might have been about Jackalope Wives somewhere in here.
Someone was just saying, oh yeah, was it Naomi? Oh, Karina?
No, Naomi.
Naomi.
I was just saying that, yes, at the start of the first one, it does say that she won an award. It doesn't say Hugo, but it does say an award.
Thank you.
It was definitely at least shortlisted for the Hugos as well, if it didn't win, if that wasn't the award that it won, because I've read it before and I'm pretty sure that was the context in which I read it. So
there we go. In the back it says North Carolina. Kingfisher. Mrs.
Oh, is that
Mrs.
where it was?
Kingfisher lives in North
the internet.
Carolina with her husband, garden, and disobedient pets.
her
Sounds
husband
idyllic.
is like a bald tattooed metalhead who keeps chickens. It's just the most adorable thing.
Of what I've seen of her, that looks like a great match. I want couple photos because that sounds brilliant.
I'm pretty sure that because he was quite delighted to be arm candy for the Hugo Awards.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure there is like a formal like portrait of them both that was taken at least one of the Hugos over the years.
Okay,
So
I'll have to go looking for it. I think the last photo I saw of T Kingfisher she had like bright orange hair, and she was wearing a beret and some other fun clothes. It was really great. Like,
What do you
I'll
see
see
what I
what
can
I
dig
have.
up?
Sorry, I'm just.
I'm also looking at images, and yeah, she's got some really cool tattoos as well.
yep.
Yeah.
Okay, so maybe it wasn't a shirt I'm thinking of. Maybe it was tattoos on her arms that I'm remembering. I'm just remembering some really cool, fun patterning going on around here. So
I'm pretty sure I remember her in a nice suit, at least for one of them.
There's one where she seems to be giving like a TED Talk type talk thing, and she's wearing a very nice suit there. But
She promised a speech on something very particular at one of the award ceremonies. Can't remember. But anyway, I guess we've finished talking about the collection.
I think so. Yeah, unless anyone had any final thoughts.
Really enjoyed it. Looking forward to reading the rest.
Oh, here we go. It's acknowledgements in the back. It has about the Alfies. Or was it she's
Yes.
talking, she's thanking her friend. Yeah, the year Jackalope Wives was winning awards, there were some rather dramatic political upheavals and infighting surrounding the Hugo Awards. The end result was that George R.R. Martin gave out his own awards called the Alfies to the stories who would have been first on the short list of nominations if not for shenanigans. Jackalope Wives was one of these. So she won an Alfie from George R.R. Martin.
Right.
But it was
Jackalope
on the
Wives.
short list, Kim, and that's
It was on the short
why I
list,
read it. Yeah.
Yep. And it talks about her friend, like he got called up and she said like it was her friend Mer's worst nightmare, like apparently having to give a speech and walking up the stairs and not knowing what the hell was going on, and then feeling a bit more relieved when they found out was on behalf of her friend. I thought that the what was it? Yeah, just talking about there. Whereupon she was thrilled, except for a vague, persistent fear that the Reigns of Castamere would start playing and everyone in the hall would be horribly slaughtered because it was George R.R. Martin's party.
Hilarious.
Oh dear.
Yeah, I did like. Oh, also a very. She has a very feminist story in there called "The Vote is Legally This Vote is Legally Binding." And it starts with, so if you haven't read this one, it's kind of funny to read. Someone always says that whenever it comes up, I guess I'm just not allowed to talk to anyone anymore. Well, yes, it is my duty to inform you that we took a vote, all us women, and determined that you are not allowed to talk to anyone ever again. And it goes on from there, like naming all these historical figures and what they were doing on the day of the vote. Like someone was Empress Wu was ruthless at Mario Kart. Yeah, that story is really like it's very, like just 2 pages, and it's about them, all the people from history taking a vote that you're not allowed to talk. As a man, you're not allowed to talk to a woman ever again.
That one was cute. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I appreciated the sentiment behind it.
Yep.
Yeah.
okay, I have to stop off because I have to go
Right.
pick up a teenager.
Thank you.
See you later.
No, I don't want to look at the stupid settings. I want out.
There we go.
Are we wrapping up, guys?
Yeah, I reckon we're wrapping up.
All right. Well, thank you everybody who was watching. Next month we are reading Blackwater Sister by Zen Cho, which is my pick. Yay. And we'll see you then. Bye.
Bye.
Bye.